Hi, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. So, everyone, let me know if you can hear me or not. I was going to do a podcast originally, but uh, podcasting isn't really my forte. And I think it's easier for me to talk when I can just talk, instead of talking and editing. So I'm doing this in live stream format because I think this is much better suited for the way I am. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about media literacy. This is for my senior capstone project. Media literacy is defined as the ability to be able to decipher, manipulate, understand, comprehend the different forms of media that is presented to you throughout your life. I first came into contact with media literacy when I came to university. I was taking a class in sociology of media, the sociology of mass media specifically. And that was the first time I heard the term media literate, media literacy. And I was baffled because I'm sitting there listening to the professor, he's talking, and I can't help but wonder why was I not taught this in K through 12? Why am I just being told this now? Like where was all this when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school? Where was all this? And I thought about even more, because university has classes like media history. And I'm thinking, why wasn't this available to me in high school? Not saying that high school has to teach all these things. However, well, actually, that's what I am saying. I'll say that further down the line. What I am saying is that like media literacy is something that became, hi Blink, it became so, how to explain? It was almost like a culture shock in a way. It was almost like a culture shock to me because it's something that a lot of people have a basic understanding, a basic comprehension of, but just like me, they didn't know that's what it was called unless you tell them this is called media literacy. Some examples of media literacy, back in the 30s, they did a live stream called, not a live stream, they did a broadcast called War of Worlds. And it was so believable to some people that they called into the police, and before you know it, the CBS radio station has a bunch of cops there because a bunch of concerned citizens were like, yo, are we gonna die? Are we gonna die? Son, are we about to die? Are we about to die? You know? And it's funny when I think about it because in the 1930s, they didn't have access to the same amounts of media that we do now. So they couldn't help but be scared. They couldn't help but be media illiterate because the most they had access to was their radio. They didn't have a television at the time. I mean, televisions were slowly rolling out, but they didn't have the access to it. Blink says he's never heard of media literacy. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. And it's not another example of media literacy. The president of South Africa, Mbeki, was President Mbeki. He faced a lot of criticism because he believed in medical propaganda that stated that HIV didn't cause AIDS. And for those of us in the LGBT plus community, we all know that HIV does cause AIDS. It does cause AIDS. If left untreated, it can eventually evolve into AIDS, and it's really unfortunate because he ended up withholding aid, and 300,000 people ended up dying because they didn't have access to the proper treatment they needed for HIV/AIDS because their president didn't believe that the two diseases were connected. And it's really unfortunate. I'm also going to go live on TikTok really quick. Media literacy, just so I can get some more participants as well. All right, but continuing on as to what I was saying, like I really had to sit back and think, like, why wasn't this a thing? Because I truly believe I would have benefited from this. And so it made me realize, this is something that I would like to propose to public schools, have public schools incorporate media literacy into their curriculum. Because a lot of because in my opinion, we have to start young. We always have to start young because Blink_1 says, this is why I don't listen to the media. it's not, I'm not saying don't listen to the media. Media literacy is just being able to understand. Well, actually, no, you're right, Blink. You're right. Sometimes it's not always wise to listen to everything the media says because we don't know what is factually based. For example, there's this one clip going around of Fox News where there's a compilation of all the Fox News outlets. Hi on TikTok, of all the Fox News outlets, and they're all reciting something, and all the different outlets of Fox News all over this country, and they're all reciting the same thing, word for word. For those of you on TikTok, I'm doing a live stream for media literacy because I want to talk to you guys about media literacy and what I want to do, hopefully, in my future. So for what I was proposing to do, was to incorporate media literacy into K through 12 education. Because for those of you who don't understand, media literacy incorporates mass communications, which is broadcasting journalism. It incorporates journalism, both broadcast and print, marketing and advertising, and public relations. This is all part of the media. This is the discipline of mass communication. This is the media. However, media literacy isn't a hands-on skill. It's something like Carly Marie 8 says, hi, that's an excellent idea. I know, right? I'm on TikTok. I'm live streaming on TikTok. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, I'm live streaming on TikTok. It's not a hands-on practice. It's not something as simple as like learning how to drive a car. It's more so like teaching people how to understand what's being presented to them. So also along with responsibility as well. And I'll explain this as I break it down to you guys a bit more, because I'm losing my train of thought a little bit, ADHD, sorry you guys. But to go over my disciplines again, it's mass communications, which is those three things. It's sociology as well. And for those of you who don't know what sociology is the study of human interaction. It's the study of societal development. It's the study of just how society develops over time. Almost everything can be viewed to some extent from a sociological perspective. Doodleby says media literacy is something you can teach. I've always been called stupid for struggling with it. No, you can't. Again, I'm on live stream with TikTok right now. Follow me on TikTok, you guys. So starting with, and also psychology, I forgot. And also psychology, and obviously K through 12 education. Psychology in the context where if you start from a young age, when you start from a young age, you can work it into people's routines, work it into their everyday lives. So that way, by the time they get to at least a senior age, about 17, 18 years old, senior in high school, freshman in college, they have a natural habit to question everything, not question everything in terms of conspiracy theories, but to know that there's more to what's being presented to them, that there may be more perspectives than what is being presented to them. But let's go back to elementary school. Hello, everyone in the comment section. So elementary school level, what that means is for elementary school kids, for media literacy, this is something easy, something as basic as, what's this? This is a computer. What's this? This is a cell phone. What's this? This is a home phone. What's this? This is a laptop. What's this? This is an Xbox. This is a PlayStation. Helping little kids understand the different kinds of technology. What is it called when you upgrade? Let me rephrase the question. What is it called when you improve this particular piece of technology? This is called an upgrade. And for those of you who are confused as to how technology plays a part in this, we live in a digital era. Almost all of our media is digital, with a few exceptions like books and magazines. Most of our media is digital to some extent. What is this? This is a radio. What's the difference between a radio and a podcast? A radio is live. A podcast is pre-recorded. You guys see where I'm coming from here. Because for little kids, this is easy to point out. And elementary school education, which is like preschool, kindergarten to grade 5, grade 6 for some places. This is where we learn how to write. This is where we learn how to read. This is where we learn how to write essays. How to write in cursive, how to math, history. This is where we can start teaching kids how to type. Because I wasn't taught let me looking in the live stream comments right here. I wasn't taught how to type until middle school. And even in middle school, typing was an option. It wasn't something you were required to learn. But as we all know, as we got older, not even just in the job world, but just being a student, you need to know how to type. Your teachers are going to assign you essays and research papers to type out at some point in time. So it's important to know how to type, and it's so funny when you think about it, because typing is a skill that you would think that would be more applied to the job force, but there are some jobs where you don't have to type anything, but for typing, for those of us for typing, it's just something that we need to be able to pass. There are so many kids in if you want to go deeper into typing, there are so many kids who don't know how to do research properly because they don't have the media literacy to understand where to look. If that makes sense. In my senior capstone class, not even just that, in my college years, a lot of people struggled. A lot of my peers struggle with knowing what is and isn't accurate information. In part of my research, I was studying. There was a research done by Stanford University. Stanford University, in their global education department, they did a survey, a test involving about 7,800 students on their media literacy. Middle school level, only about 80% of kids could tell the difference between a sponsored ad and an actual news source, which brings me to middle school. For example, middle school is where, at least in my experience, middle school is where we started to learn a bit more. How do I say? For me, at least, middle school was very. Blink commented, "You have to type at my school." See, it wasn't mandatory at my school. You didn't have to take a typing class. But see, for kids nowadays, they have to type, and that's where it comes into play. I don't know how it is for different school systems, but I think that's something that should be a nationwide thing. It shouldn't be optional to have to type, because we have to type so much when we get to high school and university. Why should it be an option for people? Hello to Baby Cake 626 and Auntie Kaylee in TikTok. Hello. Still on TikTok, you guys. So how do I explain? So in middle school, for me in middle school, I had to learn. I remember middle school being very history intensive. Like, of all, the most intensive class for me in middle school was history. We started learning about, because through K through 5, you're learning American history over and over and over again. But the minute you get to middle school, that's where you have world history, European history. It becomes more concentrated, and the thing with history is that what people don't realize is that even in those times, they still had media, those scrolls, those tabs, those scribes walking around shouting, "Public service announcement from His Lordship the King, His Majesty." That counts as media. The 10 Commandments, that's media. It's a holy media, but that counts as media. And the unfortunate thing about back in those days is that the history that we know now is dependent on whoever was in power at the time. The term I like to use is Eurocentric. A lot of people have a Eurocentric view of history because the Europeans were the ones keeping record of everything. Places like certain parts of Africa, certain parts of North and South America don't have recorded history, because when the Europeans came in there, they destroyed whatever written language they may have had, if any at all, got destroyed. Archaeologists have dug up entire cities of gold that were destroyed by the Europeans. And let me phrase, archaeologists and anthropologists have dug up entire cities of gold in Africa that were destroyed and rooted by the Europeans. But nowadays, when people think of Africa, they think people living in huts. They don't think that they don't understand that at one point in time, this was a prosperous continent. This is a point in time where this was a civilization. They were civilized. This is a country with its own hierarchy, its own religion. But that's not how the media portrays Africa today. So as you can see, history also plays a vital part in how the media portrays certain people. My school rarely taught African history. Yes, because there's not much of it left. Blink_1 said at grade 11 is when we go back into when grade 11 hit, we go back to American history. Yeah, in my school, we didn't really like, even then, we learned, even in grades K through 12, K through 5, we learned such a basic concept of American history. And then I get to like 11th grade, all of a sudden you get like swamped with this intensive, where'd this come from level of American history, you know? So in middle school, I wanted to really important, in middle school, this is where I think that people should incorporate media history, you know, understanding the different types of media throughout the years, you know, from books to scribes, you know, when the printing press was invented. And I know people might think, well, they learned this in history class, but the key difference here is with media history, when you're learning media history, you're learning about perspective. All right. This isn't just history. This is who was writing it, the tone they wrote, the way they were thinking when they wrote it, why they thought this way. All right, how people thought as a result of this being presented to them. What was the reaction? You know, a basic comprehending of how people have interacted with media throughout the years. That's why I think media history is so important. Like even here on TikTok, there's a whole community of people who post. Yes, and yes, I'm still alive. There's a whole community of people who post about media, about history. They're using their media outlets to post and to educate and understand media. And I see all the time scrolling past videos of people who are like 11, 12, 13 middle school students who are like, my school didn't teach us this. And can y'all relate? Like on TikTok, can y'all relate? Like a lot of people, their schools didn't teach them. And that's when, again, this goes back to the importance of media literacy, helping kids understand how media has influenced society throughout the years. You know, something as simple as a history teacher showing us a history, how to explain it. And this is also where I think, sorry, I had to catch my breath. This is also where I think, you know, speech classes should start happening. And I don't even, and maybe middle school might even be too early as well. Like starting out in like maybe 4th or 5th grade, moving on into middle school more intensive, you know, Madam Mater LaRose on TikTok says, yep, was never taught stuff like this. Exactly. You know, starting at maybe 4th, 5th grade, and then slowly working it into middle school, more speech classes, because English and history is mostly written intensive. But what speech classes do is that they help us understand the importance of spoken word, the importance of tone, the importance of word choice, because we can read about how stuff was twisted and reworded to fit the narrative at the time. But what speech classes do is they really help us experience it, you know? Sorry, this was that was a lot of just now. Hey there, you dropped this, hello. Carly Marie 8 says, I didn't learn about media in school, but I'm old. I mean, Blink _ says, I like history, but we always learn the same things over and over and over. We always learn about other places. And it's funny you say that, because a lot of people, they say, why do Americans always think the world revolves around them? Because that's what we're taught. You know, our media doesn't really do a good job at showing other perspectives. At least the media that's presented to us in our early grade years. This is the important context of media history, showing people that, you know, there are certain cultures that didn't get to speak for themselves, that didn't get, let me rephrase, showing middle school students how there are certain cultures in the world that didn't get to speak for themselves. They didn't get to show their media. They don't get to have their history, because media is the precursor to history. If media is the live stream, history is the DVR, history is the DVD. If media is radio, history is podcast, if that makes sense, you know? Someone says, I remember a time when my history teacher started going on about a tangent about some stuff that happened too. Exactly. And it's so weird when you think about it, because a lot of the side tangents people go on in my world history class, this was stuff that was true, but it wasn't part of the curriculum, because a lot of world history is Eurocentric. It's history from the European perspective. At the time, that was what was being presented to us from just one perspective. Someone says natives. he went on a tangent to stuff that happened about the natives, and he said natives that wasn't in the history. Oh, what she's saying is her history teacher went on tangents about stuff that happened to Native Americans, and would always say, "You didn't hear this from me," because it's true. A lot of the stuff that happened is true, but it's not taught, and as a result, it makes us form a certain way of thinking, and it makes us form a certain way of how we view modern day Native Americans. I know I'm going on a tangent right now, but I hope that makes sense to you. Because what I'm saying makes sense to people. Hi, Star. Blink says that's why I'm trying to learn things on my own. Yeah. Nationalism. Juicy_melon says, TBH, I think the education system just pumps up nationalism. And I can attest to that, because when I was in middle school and I started learning about World War II, I became very passionate about America's role in World War II. Not like I went through this weird little phase where I was just like, America, America. I went through this weird little phase about, a lot of my peers went through that as well, So it's important with media history. Moving on to high school. So I'm talking a lot. Moving on to high school. This is where Star says, in my history class, state by state curriculum, we have to learn all the regions. That's another thing. I'll get into that as well. A lot of history classes. Well, I'll put it like, let me quick little side tangent. A lot of states have different cultures, which we all know to an extent. But I also realized from talking to my friend in Arizona, a lot of states have different cultures and different ways of thinking because their kids are only taught state history. As a result, the media in that state is a little bit different. For example, my senior capstone professor, he's from California, and I made a statement during class saying, that in Virginia we learn about Jamestown and how America was founded over and 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 over again, to where you can't live in Virginia for that amount of time and not know how this country was founded, versus like in California, where you will learn so much more about the California gold rush than a Virginia kid will, Early Erie 313. My high school has a mandatory class for seniors called World Religion. But why is that only mandatory in high school though? Why isn't that something that just incorporated into as things went on? So apparently this one girl who commented on TikTok, she says that her school wouldn't let him share stuff not in books. Whatever wasn't in the textbook, his school wouldn't let him share. Blink_ once says, in the 8th grade, we learned about geography, Mississippi history. We didn't even get to African or East Asia. I rest my case, This is the importance of media history, you guys. Because again, look at it from a good not fictional example was there's an episode of Star Wars where Ahsoka Tano meets some actual separatist, and she's like, well, I thought separatists were like this and like that. Where they're like, we're not all that. You really shouldn't listen to everything. You shouldn't. And the separatist girl that she was talking to said, you really shouldn't listen to everything that the Republic tells you. And what she's saying is true, because what is presented in the media, if presented incorrectly, becomes the historical perspective. And that's really unfortunate, I say a lot. That's not what I mean. Potts can't keep me down commented, in middle school, I did a report on Lebanon. My grandfather's from there, and my classmates were mad. Why were they mad? Another comment, we learned about July 22nd every year. I'm Norwegian. We have a memory for that year. Oh, Potts, she said they were mad because apparently she was now a terrorist. Because where this comes into context is if you think about it from American history, excuse me, even in the media history. No, a perfect example of this in media history, during the times of war, there's a lot of propaganda saying, get behind the war effort, especially in like World War I, the Korean War, Vietnam War. And like, we look back at it now and we were just like, bullshit. like what you said to us, what was being presented in the media wasn't true. And that's not necessarily the fault of the media, because it's the fault of the sender, the people who sent the message to the media. At the same time, it's an attestment to the national perspective, because like I was taught earlier on, whoever controls the media controls the perspective, controls the culture, I mean. Entire government programs just for propaganda. Think about it. Well, my parents grew up during a time of the Vietnam War. The media is saying, like the media tells us, communism, fight against communism, and then, but in reality, it's just a hidden. Not saying that the Vietnam War didn't have good intentions there, but what the government was trying to push through the media that's not what was really happening. People were being, and it's not, and it's unfortunate because a lot of soldiers got portrayed as baby killers, as terrorists themselves. And you see where the clash comes back into play. This is what happens when there's a lack of media literacy. And one thing I will test about that generation is that that was an early generation that really, I will say the hippie generation, the baby boomers, that was a generation that, honestly, that's the first generation that really pushed to have their own narrative. They didn't want their narrative to be divided. They didn't want their narrative to be defined by what society told them to believe in. All right. This is the importance of media history, you guys. Because media, if you understand the history of how media operates, it will help you understand how it's operating now. All right. Moving on to high school. This is where I think high school is where I really think we should have more focus on sociology of media, because history and sociology have this weird this weird relationship where it's kind of it's the same, but it's not the same. High school is where I think a lot of kids, as we really became more self-aware and we really started to form our own opinions, where schools should start incorporating, this is the type of effect media can have. Because once again, for those of you who are new to the live stream, sociology is the study of how society develops, how we are affected by our society, if that makes sense. Trying to critically think. Yes, this is the time period where I think we should really be taught media literacy in terms of sociology of media. This is why, again, like I truly believe that the sociology of media is something that should have been taught in high school, because this is a lot of times where a lot of high school kids, well, middle school and high school kids, going through their awkward phase, becoming more self-aware, discovering their bodies, discovering themselves, learning how to process emotions. And sorry, I was checking for a comment. And sometimes they can do things not realizing the type of effect that can have. And I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example. So recently in 2020, as we've seen, coronavirus and all that jazz, but there was these two teens in Georgia. They made a really racist TikTok about Black people, saying racial slurs, perpetuating stereotypes. And to them, it was just a joke. And they didn't understand why there was all this backlash towards them. They didn't understand why they were being expelled from school. They didn't understand why they were losing their college admissions or scholarships. And Laura _ tries to be funny on TikTok says, absolutely, teach the teen sociology. And then Yo Sang goes, oh wait, I'm sorry, Yo Sang lost lines. Problem I have is you can't separate opinions from facts. And that's the point of sociology, Blink _ once said, I was taking sociology and my teacher was not that good. And that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate, And what was I going to say? Sociology. I really wanted to push more about let me go back to the Georgia teens. They didn't understand how the video they posted could potentially be detrimental to their future academic careers. Because now they can't get into college because of that video. They got denied their college admissions. They lost their scholarships because of that video, you know? But at no point, it was the fact that they even posted it just shows that there's that at no point in time did they think posting that video would be an issue. And that's unfortunate. It's really sad when I think about it, you know? And helping and it's not just, you know, how to explain, there's a word for this. Understanding the sociological effect the media has, because it can help us in terms of politics as well. You know, helping us understand. I'm gonna use our president's a perfect example. Our president does media play. You know, he plays on the media. He's very, it sucks to say it, but Donald Trump is very media literate. He is very, very, very media literate. He can make the media jump just by using a few vague words. One example during the coronavirus epidemic was they were asking him about aid that had been sent to New York. And he was like, well, I sent aid to New York. I don't know why they're asking for more. I don't know what happened to it. I sent it to them. Where is it at? You should look into that. Planting a seed of doubt that there was something suspicious happening in New York that was leading to them missing all of their coronavirus aid. When in reality, people are dying and protective gear has to keep being thrown away and washed and reused and thrown away and washed and reused, you know? He's very good at gaslighting. You know, he's very good at gaslighting. No, but again, this is why it's important to be media literate, so you don't fall for gaslighting ploys like that. Before he went to spring break, he lives in DC. So, sorry, so another example. I just think this is just me, you guys, especially in high school. This is the most important time for kids to understand, for teenagers to develop a sociological perspective. That is the most important time here, because this is where kids start to formulate, this is what I want to do in life. This is what I want to be in life. This is where I want to go. You know, this is where kids start to really make those hard decisions about what their role in society will be. And this is also where kids are starting to make a lot of dumb mistakes, or make a lot of dumb decisions, not realizing the effect it can have on them. So it's important to really incorporate that type of mentality into these young people. Sociology, media, and just general sociology, if you ask me. Because remember, media literacy is a critical thinking skill. It's a critical thinking skill. You know, and it will help a lot of young kids be able to look in the mirror and realize that I don't have to be like the kids, like the girl in the magazine or the guy in the magazine. I don't have to look like that, because that's an exaggeration. There's a production behind that. They look that way because there was a lot of effort put in to make them look that way or act that way. They're perfect. They're not perfect. They just looked perfect because we're trying to present people in their best form. This is all media ploy. You know, understanding the tactics of the media, the logic behind the media, just understanding. Because the whole point of media literacy isn't to just it's not to teach you what to think. Because some people will think, Yo Sang Lost Line says, I feel like they don't even push voting or anything. They just, or even listening to your thoughts. Exactly. You know, they, how do I explain? Oh, what was I talking about? I lost my train of thought, you guys. Lost my train of thought. What was I just talking about? I'm very ADHD, y'all. I just lost my train of thought. What was I just talking about? Someone please remind me. I literally just lost my train of thought. Oh God, I was on a roll. Okay, I remember now. The importance of media literacy. Thank you guys. Listen, the importance of media literacy is not to tell you what to think. Because a lot of people, if I say the backlash we could get, the backlash I could get from trying to incorporate media literacy into curriculum is, who's going to pay for that? What I want to teach my kids myself. It's not meant to necessarily, like, it's not something that's hard to do necessarily. It's something that can easily be taught as a part of regular English and history curriculum. It's something that it's not something that has to be an elective. because a media literacy class can be the difference between making sure you pick you whether or not you give into that internet scam. Media literacy class can be the reason that you took the time to understand someone else's the way to understand the way coding works, to understand how certain television shows and can code certain characters to appeal to a certain demographic, can teach you to understand why journalists talk the way they do, to understand the difference between political theater and political satire. There's a wide spectrum of things that media literacy can teach you to stop and just understand. It's not just the doom and gloom. It can be from the basic thing of reading a price tag. That's media, like something as simple as reading a price tag can be so beneficial to media literacy. How you read, here's an example, like how I read this Coca-Cola bottle compared to how I read this. That's media literacy, because Coca-Cola, this is written in cursive. This bottle's written in, and I know this seems very random, but this is a perfect example. Cursive is thought, for people on TikTok, cursive is taught to be a fancy way of writing, so it's made, so when people can write in cursive, people who write in cursive are thought to be more educated, more elevated, more fancy, versus just regular plain writing. If you just think about it, the way the media presents cursive writing versus just standard writing, who would you think is more educated looking? The person who can write a whole book in cursive, or just the person that's just writing in standard font? Exactly, the person that's writing in cursive. But all in all, to wrap things up, you guys, I just want you guys to understand the importance here, the importance of really stress, because I myself, as I grow older and I get into the workforce, and you guys, really stress incorporating, even as adults, incorporating into your school systems. Talk to your Congress people, talk to government leaders, incorporating a unified concept of media literacy. Again, we're not trying to teach people what to think. It's how to think. Like not even how to think, not how to think, how to understand, how to better understand, not even how to think, just how to better understand, how to look at things from different perspectives. Apparently, I never learned, how to write cursive. Recognizing the typography. Question everything, and exactly, question everything and research. You don't have, not, and I will say this, there's some things that aren't meant to question, but there are some things that we will never find the answer to, but it's important to keep asking questions, because, and there are some things that we have to accept as fact. There are some things that we have to accept as fact, and there are some things that we have to accept with a grain of salt. That's the importance of media literacy, making sure people understand these things. Because one thing that many people don't understand is that the media capitalizes off of the ignorance of the masses. We know this, and you don't. We're the messengers or the listeners. And we don't do it, as someone who works in the media myself, we don't do it as a way to be mean. It's just from our line of work, we have to assume that you guys don't know any better. There's so many layers to this that I can peel back, but I don't have that long to talk about it. But understand, the whole point of this is to encourage you guys to be more media literate. All right. Like I said earlier, a lot of people get on TikTok and they're like, well, damn, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about that. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. Codes, like a lot, especially a lot of white people, because there's a lot of things that they don't understand from minority perspectives. And again, once again, this is the importance of media literacy. This is the importance of media literacy, to truly help people comprehend and understand and formulate different patterns of thinking, different ways of thinking, different ways of understanding. And only then will we truly understand what it is to be woke, what it is to comprehend. Did you just send me money? Thank you. Thank you, Sage Moon. She bought me a sticker. She or he or they. Sage. So someone commented, they literally used to call us left-handed people evil. I don't know if that's another thing. During the media of those times said if you were left-handed, you were evil. My mom told me when I was young, I used to pick up stuff when I was a baby, I used to pick up stuff with my left hand. And just out of habit, because for so many centuries, Eurocentric teachings and Eurocentric media has taught people that left-handed is not good. So out of habit, my dad would put stuff in my right hand. You know, the importance of media literacy is also reflected in colonization, the effects of colonization as well. You know, like Black people, a lot of Black people view voodoo as witchcraft and dark magic, not realizing that voodoo comes from Africa. You know, and people who practice voodoo celebrate people who practice voodoo and hoodoo, they worship the same God, but because of propaganda and the media manipulation of that time period, fast forward to modern day, we're programmed to think of it in a negative context. Again, this is the importance of research and media literacy. So once again, you guys, I stress this. I really want everyone to really take the time to talk to your education administrators. Form education reform groups in your local neighborhood. This is a call to action, basically. This live stream is a call to action. You know, to people on social media, because I'm doing media literacy right now. I'm on YouTube, but I'm also on TikTok. You know, a call to action for people to sit there and really putting work and effort into reforming how perspective is taught, how fact and opinion is taught, how the government, because the public schools is basically the government, how the government is teaching our kids to interpret the information around them, how making sure that someone doesn't take the information given to them and they twist it into something that's so unrealistic that they become a Sasang fan, a stalker fan, like a Stan, who's so wrapped up in the media persona of their idols that they can't separate fact from exaggerated that they can't separate reality from exaggerated nonfiction. All right, but that's all the time I have for today. I hope this wasn't too rambly for you guys. But again, you know, it's important to incorporate these things. This takes psychology. This takes sociology. It takes education reform, education in general, mass communications, you know, incorporating things, understanding, analyzing, and then applying it, but through slow integration, not a whole business plan, you know, but just a different way of teaching that encourages a more open-minded and tolerant way of thinking. But to my live stream people, have a nice day. You guys be good. You know, my name is Chandler Bradley. This is my senior capstone project. This media literacy live streams. You all have a nice day. I'll see you around.